For decades, the Western Balkans has been known as a region people leave. From the 1960s and 70s, when Yugoslav gastarbeiteri, guest workers, left in hundreds of thousands for factories in West Germany, Austria and Switzerland, sending money home but building their futures abroad. In the 1990s, the wars forced another exodus, this time for sheer survival, when hundreds of thousands of people left the region. And in the years since, a renewed economic outflow has continued. Young professionals, skilled workers and whole families still head to the EU and beyond in search of higher wages and greater stability. During the same decade, the Western Balkans also became a transit corridor, a place migrants from the Middle East, Asia and Africa passed through on their way to Western Europe. The result? Shrinking populations, persistent labor shortages, and economies struggling to keep pace. But today, that story is turning on its head. For the first time, foreign workers are now coming into the Western Balkans. From construction sites in Bosnia, hotels along Montenegro's coast, and factories in Serbia, to care and service jobs across the region, newcomers from India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, the Philippines, and beyond are filling roles local labor can no longer supply. In just 5 years, foreign work permits have more than doubled, from about 46,000 in 2018 to over 100,000 in 2023, and demand keeps rising. Employers caution that without these workers, the region's growth could slow, yet legal procedures may still be complicated. Employers caution that without these workers, the region's growth could slow, yet legal procedures may still be complicated, recruitment channels can be opaque, and integration support, housing, language, legal aid is only beginning to take shape. Migrants may still encounter discrimination or abuse. Meanwhile, public perception is lagging. The Western Balkans is still seen more as a place of departure than arrival. This series follows that transformation. Through the voices of foreign workers, employers, official and international organizations, we explore how the Western Balkans is becoming a destination and what that shift means for the region's future. In the first episode, I speak with Laura Lungarotti, Western Balkans Coordinator and IOM Bosnia and Herzegovina Chief of Mission, Mohamed Shahin, Deputy Secretary of the Ministry of Expatriates, Welfare and Overseas Employment of Bangladesh, and Pilvi Torsti, Director of the European Training Foundation. Mrs. Laura Lungarotti, I want to start with you because you have this specific role being the IOM Western Balkans Coordinator, and especially because you have all of this expertise from around the world and you've seen these migrations change and you've seen these trends firsthand. However, the Western Balkans, as we know, is in the beginning phases of these labor migrations. What can we do? What can the region and the countries and the people do at this stage before this mass migration that might be upon us to build truly inclusive societies?
Well, I must say that this change of migration patterns here in the Western Balkans has happened fairly quickly, in the sense that until 2023/2024, the big topic was really irregular migration transiting through the Western Balkans. But then in 2023-2024, we start to see a decrease of those irregular arrivals to the Western Balkans for a whole host of reasons, mostly linked to security and also rising trafficking and smuggling. And at the same time, we've seen a massive, all of a sudden, increase of regular arrivals. With more than 50% increase of work permits provided to incoming migrants just in the last few years. So actually, it's quite striking to see this phenomenon changing so fast, and this goes hand in hand with plenty of other reasons: demographic decline, getting closer to the EU, need of diversifying talents because the market is asking that. So what we need to do, what is the best thing to do? First of all is to frame this whole migration shift with policy measures that can accompany employers who are now leading this whole development in making sure that people who are employed here get the full spectrum of rights, and that at the same time they can best contribute to the whole society, including by working on inclusion and integration measures so that it doesn't become a shock. And that's the reason why we've partnered up with the Regional Cooperation Council as well as with the government of Montenegro and brought together all the key stakeholders in Budva, where we are today, to try to get the same level of understanding that we need policy measures to frame this booming phenomenon.
With us today is also Mr. Mohammed Shahin. He's a Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Expatriates, Welfare and Overseas Employment of the Government of Bangladesh. Mr. Shahin, your country is on the other side of this conversation when we speak about the Western Balkans. What steps does your ministry and your government take to inform and protect the workers who are coming here or to any other country?
Well, as you mentioned, the name of the Ministry of Expatriates, Welfare and Overseas Employment, you know that this is a dedicated ministry in Bangladesh, deal with the migration governance issues. And this ministry administers the migration governance through its affiliated organization. It has a very robust migration mechanism to ensure the safe pathways for the regular, orderly, and fair recruitment process. So in this conference, what we have observed that there is a major concern of the states of the Western Balkans. They have the concern for the migrants, retention of the migrants in Balkan states and their recruitment process, whether it is safe or in orderly process or not. So what I find that we are in the same sentiment, or we are in the same opinion, that we also like to ensure our migration process in a safe way to protect the rights and interests of the migrant workers. And first of all, it starts from the government interventions, the skills development. Whenever migrant workers have the adequate skills with him, there is less chances of exploitation, number one. And number two is, whenever we send any migrant workers abroad, we scrutinize all documents on all papers. Even we try to verify the situation of the employers, the strength of the employers, whether he is able to satisfy our employee. This is one side. Another side is that whenever the recruiting agency places any demand for recruitment, along with employment contract and the power of attorney and related papers, we scrutinize through very stringent verification process, all these papers. And the recruiting agencies must have to obtain the recruitment permission, either from the ministry or its department. So whenever he applies for the recruitment permission, he has to submit all relevant papers, credible relevant papers. So after scrutinizing all these papers, we just give permission for starting the recruitment process. And once the recruitment process is started and the migrant workers is selected, he has to go through another verification process for his safety and security. And this facilitates both the countries, for the country of origin and also for the country of destinations. And prior to departure, he has to undergo through a pre-departure orientation course. And in that course, we provide all sorts of information related to the rules, regulations, and the laws of the country of destination, that is the host country's culture, language, and everything, so that he can easily customize in his working station, and he can easily customize in the working conditions.
With us today is also Mrs. Pilvi Torsti, who is Director of the European Training Foundation. So maybe for starters, for our viewers, if you could just tell us shortly what European Training Foundation is, and right away, could you tell us how can targeted training and skills development afterwards serve as tools for integration and social cohesion, in this case in the Western Balkans?
Yeah, so European Training Foundation, ETF, is an EU agency we could say perhaps an EU arm outside the EU countries. We operate in the countries in the EU neighborhood and beyond in the field of skills, human capital development. So both employment and education, transformation of systems, development of systems, and also monitoring and analyzing education and training systems of the EU neighborhood, including Western Balkans, including Central Asia, North Africa, also Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Moldova, etc. Well, looking at then the role of skills in the whole spectrum of migrations, of course, skills development, it's both about stability and it's about progress. And when you look at it from the perspective of an individual, actually, so the skills development has to do with the ability for participation in the economic life, in the labor market, but also in the social life. And that's one of the things that EU really actually is emphasizing as part of the migration policies, that you also have the kind of rights as a, if not as a citizen, but as a member of that society when you work there. If you then look at the perspectives or the policies that EU has to enhance this year, the new Commission, von der Leyen Commission, launched something called Union of Skills. And here, for the skills element, there is, I think, an important understanding, namely that while we've been always promoting in Europe the concept of lifelong learning as a right of an individual, but now with the Union of Skills, there is a notion of skills being fundamental investment if we really want to have competitive societies, so that the competitiveness and competencies go together. And it may be an easy thing to say, but if you look at it actually from the perspective, again, of the individual or of the employer of a company or of a country that is, for instance, receiving migrants, this investment is a long-term perspective for labor migration and a sustainable perspective, therefore. And perhaps there's one example of the policies that are relevant, that we work with the Western Balkan countries, actually all 6 countries, and also actually other countries, including today Ukraine. But it's an EU policy called Youth Guarantee, and that I think serves as a good example how in the skills development you need to bring everyone to the same table. So with the Youth Guarantee, you typically work with ministries, employment services, companies, youth organizations, civil service organizations, social partners, with the aim to connect everyone. So to look at really that what are the needs of young people who are either lacking some part of their education still or are unemployed, and is it the reskilling program they need, or is it actually some sort of social support, for instance, in terms of housing they need, but at the end result being that they actually are employed. And I think the new phenomenon through labor migration is, of course, an interesting element also from the perspective of the Youth Guarantee, because you need to look at probably also the workers that come at some point, they may be needing to look for another job. So can that sort of policy also accommodate, again, looking at all the partners, all the stakeholders together in the same table?
Something Mrs. Torsti said, you said that this is investment when you spoke about skills, which reminded me, Laura, you've had, I know you said that labor migration can be a driver of economic development if it's done right. So I think it would be important, for our viewers to hear the justification and the logic behind this sentence, maybe in an attempt to understand what's happening to us.
Of course. How labor migration can become a leverage of growth. I mean, let me be simple. If you have a labor migrant, so a regular migrant who comes to Bosnia-Herzegovina or comes to Serbia, he works in his environment, but then first of all, he can start to benefit from a number of services of the community around him. So investing in services, and then he becomes an economic actor of the society he's in. Down the line, he can start to pay taxes, of course. So in a way, he provides also social services and social guarantees for an aging population of his host societies. We've seen a super nice example today of a migrant worker who was then down the line able to create her own business here in Montenegro. She created an Indian restaurant, so she becomes herself an employer. So she generates wealth, she generates growth. So if you create the conditions for that labor migrants to be included in the society, that labor migrants becomes an economic actor of the society by spending, investing, paying, and that's the key point. You know, I mean, I come from Italy. Italy did this major shift of being a major country of immigration immediately after the war and before, and now is becoming a major country of destination, immigration of migrants. Many migrants, including Albanians, that in the 90s were mostly doing so-called low-skilled job. Today, they are entrepreneurs in Italy. They are creating jobs for others. So that's the transition we can see in well-managed labor migration policies.
And Mr. Shahin, you know, many Bangladeshi workers in the Western Balkans may be migrating outside of these official government-to-government channels that we talked about. What challenges does this pose for the Bangladeshi government and even your ministry in that sense? And in the end, the whole idea behind the ministry that you explained to us, what if it goes outside of your scope?
Well, this is something what you have mentioned, that there are chances or maybe some unofficial migration may be occurred in some of the places. But we do not have any formal or official information. So if we have any official or formal information, definitely we will take care of it. We will address the issue. But anyhow, in our migration process, this is a regular process which we follow. That is the sensitization for safe migration and the awareness campaign. And since Laura is here, IOM, ILO, and many other organizations, they support us in these endeavors. And we provoke all the aspirant migrant workers, please follow the safe pathways. Don't follow any illegal pathways or any irregular paths that could be very much vulnerable for you, not only for the country, and that can jeopardize our images also. So it is definitely very much harmful, not only for the migrant workers, for the nation as a whole. Because you know that Bangladesh is a major labor sending country, and we have abundance of human resources and a large number of the skilled manpower pool. So we like to send more people to more countries, especially as regard to today's discussion on the Western Balkans. We are looking for new markets. So the Balkans, Western Balkan countries could be a very good option for us for decent work of our migrant workers.
I understand. Mrs. Torsti, when we talk about migrants, people coming from different backgrounds, are there any kinds of mismatches between migrant skills, some specific migrant skills, and local labor markets needs, and how can we overcome them?
That's, of course, $1 million question, which we have also always had in the world.
Thank you for answering it.
I think I will actually go a bit back in history, as you know, Laura brought nicely her Italian background. I come from Finland, and I remember the times when the Finnish workers and workers from former Yugoslavia met in the car factories in Sweden. So labor migration has always found its ways in a way, and matches and mismatches have always existed. So it's important, I think, to remind ourselves that we are not discussing a phenomena that is new. It's just that the different dynamics always emerge for different reasons, and then we again have to analyze and understand them and work towards stability, best possible, in a way, solutions both for individuals and for the countries. But I think it's always to sort of calm people also down that we've always had people looking for better chances and different countries needing for labor for different reasons. To your question of mismatches, yes, we analyze these sort of things a lot at ETF, both in terms of how well the systems, education and training systems today in our countries, in the neighboring countries, in the Western Balkans, actually prepare people for the needs of the labor markets. And the mismatches are quite dramatic for many reasons, because we have the green transition, we have digital transition, we have many trends, we have aging populations. So many trends together actually create mismatches already in our sort of, if you call domestic labor markets everywhere in Europe. And then when you look at the labor migration as one of the solutions, again, the picture is quite complex, because often people leave. We, of course, have seen this region also. A lot of people at the moment are working outside, probably 1/4 of the population or so. Many have left because they are overqualified for the jobs that they've been offered locally. And so that's one type of mismatch. And as they have left, then there is a need for workers to come from outside, and then Bangladesh government is doing its best to find, for instance, labor that would actually have such skills that are being needed. But in reality, when we are in the real situations of the labor markets, as was reminded us today, that labor markets are not a theory, they are a reality, day-to-day reality. So that is there where then the different reskilling and upskilling programs need to take place in order actually to really overcome those mismatches. Our role as an EU agency that does lots of analysis is try also to see a little bit further ahead, that what are the needs in years' time, in 5 years' time, to do foresight work in order the systems also to prepare themselves better, not to have ad hoc solutions, but to be systemic and long-term in the solutions also within our countries.
Mrs. Lungarotti, I mentioned, and you said that you've had experience in some very diverse societies. Maybe this question is twofold in a way. So to ask you this both as Laura, the person who's been to all these places, but also as somebody representing IOM. Based on your experience, what are the best integration models on one hand? And secondly, what do you want to see here? What do you want as the outcome of this conference today, or to see the Western Balkans become in a few years' time, in order to evade two very conflicting poles of a spectrum? On one hand, ghettoization, and on the other side, assimilation, which are both trends we've seen backfire and misfire in many European societies when it comes to migration.
Integration, inclusion is one of the most complex area in which many countries are grappling with when it comes to migration. I don't think there is a golden formula. I cannot pinpoint a model that has worked extremely well. Unfortunately, there are some good practices here and there which have proven successful, but then there's been here and there also backlashes sparkled by various phenomena, including geopolitical phenomena. So I cannot point you out of an integration model that works, but I can point you out to key issues that have to be taken into account, such as cultural orientation, learning the language. We see now increasingly the debate about learning the language of the destination country where you are, access to key services, diversification of the workplace. These are all things that work. And also what works very well is local level integration, when local authorities are involved in driving the policies for inclusion and integration of their newcomers. And because they can capitalize on those newcomers and becomes a win-win for a local reality. So these are all good things that are out there as good practices and a good example. What we are aiming at, first of all, here we are at the beginning of this debate in terms of authorities' understanding of the changing reality. So today the idea was, let's get a shared understanding that we can gain out of working more on this issue. Down the line, we would expect various countries in this region to start have inclusive policies that look at all these aspects, including, as we said, integration and inclusion, and then hopefully a more regional also umbrella that could also be supported by the Regional Cooperation Council that pinpoints some of the convergence, some of the best practices in one country that could be replicated elsewhere. So it's a long journey. It's a long journey. Now we are starting from the understanding of the issue and the political interest around it, but then there are tons of other things that need to happen from the policy point of view, from the data point of view, from the practice point of view that hopefully will unfold nationally and regionally.
Okay, but then at least we can conclude that those first steps are being made.
Are being made.
Are they timely?
There was, yes. I mean, we are even hosted in a venue where most of the service persons around us are themselves labor migrants, and we are basically talking about how best to work with them while they are around us. So it means that we're spot on, I think, in terms of timing.
We're gonna finish with this, and I will, I'm actually looking forward to, because this is going to be a serial. We're doing a few episodes on this topic in the Western Balkans, and I want to thank you all for being the first ones and for kickstarting this hopefully fruitful and possibly useful discussion for the Western Balkans, for the society, and for the incoming immigrants. So thank you, all three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
Thank you.